mean, this is really taken over the software industry in the last decade, right? I mean, because any given application has, hundreds to thousands of dependencies, and that's all the open source ecosystem doing a wonderful job of providing great functionality. But now management of that functionality, most importantly, the CVEs and the vulnerabilities associated with those dependencies, is now what's really coming back to require management.
Yeah, and it's just, but I mean, yeah, it's again, you're just being forced to do good engineering practices. It's nothing you shouldn't have been doing in the first place, right? I will
Yeah.
push back on you hard as someone who
Yeah, no,
was the
totally
manager of an
agree.
engineering department. Yeah, you better be doing this type of stuff.
Yep.
And the CVEs are fun. So the Linux kernel is now a CNA, and a CNA is a certificate numbering authority. And that means we are now responsible for all CVEs, and CVE is common vulnerability expression numbering. What does CVE stand for? It's a number. A CVE is just
Yeah.
a unique ID for a bug. It was created like over 20 some years ago, so you could say, you don't have to say the second paragraph on the third page of that website is the bug description. You can have a common place for these. And CVEs have grown over the years. It's a vulnerability. It's a fix for a vulnerability, and you can track them across products because, like you say, the dependency chain is huge. You want to know that it's fixed in your version of your device and whatnot. That gets messy when you see companies backporting fixes and don't bump version numbers. So it's hard to do things like that. But for the kernel, we always resisted this because dealing with this is because we thought of it as a joke. Any bug at our level is a security bug. We treat a bug as a bug. We want to fix bugs and move on. We fix known security issues every week. We fix unknown security issues even more. So we ignored it for forever, but it turns out with the CRA and other laws that are coming up, we have to be responsible for documenting all vulnerabilities as if you want to use Linux. So we applied to be a CNA. Before, we couldn't do this stuff. The CVE group, you had to be a company to do this, but now, thanks to Python, I'll call it Python, blazed the trail for everybody to say we want to be responsible for our own numbers, our own vulnerabilities. Please let us do this as a nonprofit, as a bunch of individuals. Python did that. OpenSSF, the Linux Foundation, wrote up the documentation for everybody. A bunch of other projects have done this. Curl, Daniel from Curl has done this. I did this for the kernel and other open source projects. I recommend everybody do this. But so now we're responsible for documenting all bugs, right? And all vulnerabilities. And the definition of a vulnerability is very specific. We have to go by that. So we start issuing them. And the bugs at our level of the stack is very interesting because any bug at our level could cause a problem, could cause you to reboot, could cause you to lose memory. These are all vulnerabilities. Traditionally, most bugs are not vulnerabilities, but at our level there are. So we start issuing them. And over last year, we did the math the other day because I have to give a talk. We had 10 a day, 10 CVEs a day. Now, the funny thing is we have 30 million lines of code in the kernel, right? So all the drivers for the code for all hardware is in the kernel, all the architectures. We got rid of Itanium, sorry, finally, but all the architectures are together in the kernel. No foul. So I did the math. So every CVE that we issue, we say touch this file, right? And when you build your kernel, you're only building a subset. So like if you look at my laptop, it runs 2 million lines of code. You run a server, it's 1.5 million lines of code. A phone runs 4 million lines of code. Phones, from a computational point of view, are the most complex beasts out there, much more so than servers. Servers are really simple. So I did some math. I took a random week, and I said, how many CVEs or these vulnerabilities actually applied to the code that was built for Android? So look at that. And 10 were there for a week. So that's 1/7 of them were applicable. Now, a lot of these, we don't give a grade. We don't say how severe they are, be they minor, major, because I don't know how you're using Linux. Anything could be, right. Yeah. In your instance, could be trivial or not be an issue at all. It depends on if you do this. Famously, phones, if the kernel ever spits out a warning, the phone has an option that'll reboot just because they want to be safe, which is good. Servers sometimes do that as well. But that means that was a vulnerability because I got your phone to reboot. So I have to classify this. So I don't grade them. So then I looked at Apple and Microsoft. And for that same week, Apple and Microsoft had 10 issues, maybe 9, 11. And then somebody told me that Microsoft only documents their high bugs for their operating system. So if you look at that, we're actually doing better than the other operating systems out there, or the same. It's fine. So all operating systems are bugs at our level, are considered vulnerabilities. There's a lot of them. Again, 10 a day is what we're issuing, which about 30 changes to the stable kernel go in per day. So 1/3 of the fixes that go into the kernel are a vulnerability. It's a pretty high number if you think about it. Some of them are dumb. It's like, oh, I didn't clean up this memory. I'll never hit this, but we have to mark them as such. Rust is going to help us get rid of some of them. It's not going to help us get rid of others. But we document them now. So now we have a documented trail that if you ship a device, you have 700 CVEs that are outstanding on your device. The legal people aren't going to look too kindly at that, right? It's going to be fun to watch out how that goes. I know Red Hat's coming up with a document that said, here's all the CVEs that are not applicable for our product. And that's good because, again, if we have all these things, majority of them are not applicable. So they're having to change their ecosystem. But the quantity of these IDs that are out there is just huge now. It's not just us. We're not the largest contributor of CVEs. Just everybody's now realizing that we have to document all the vulnerabilities in all our open source products in order for people to be more aware for their ecosystem and for their supply chain that they do need to update and they do need to fix this stuff. And it's not like these bugs weren't there in the first place. They've always been there and we've always been fixing them. We're just documenting it now. So we've always been fixing bugs at this rate. It's just that nobody ever was paying attention. And now there's actually a paper trail to get you to pay attention a little more. Again, it's just hacking the ecosystem of the vulnerability databases, but it seems to be working.
So this is a question that I've had since you started doing the every bug is a CVE. I mean, given that the CRA is really focused towards Internet of Things kind of devices, because that's what's proliferated into the consumer market, the vast majority of them are running Linux as the basic operating system. You're putting out 10 CVEs a day. So how does a Internet of Things, how does the Ring doorbell stay current so that they aren't running afoul of the CRA with that level of frequency with vulnerabilities being issued? How does that work in practice? What is your expectation? How do you see that working?
So originally it was like you can't ship a device with any known vulnerabilities. And my response was that known to who? Me? Known to you? If you just close your ears and don't pay attention, then you didn't know any bugs were there. We're going to hash that out. I'm part of the subcommittee to working on the CRA. Our first meeting is next month to hash out how that's all going to work. Because it's also going to work like, do we need to have a European reporting agency for all these bugs, including the CVE, which is US based, right? Or can the European work with the US one? Because then we have to normalize the database, and Japan is spinning up their own, and India is spinning up their own. How do we work through this stuff and how they interact? And at this rate that we're going, it can't be a manual type of thing. I mean, 10 for me a day. I'm not the biggest contributor. We're the second biggest. We're not the biggest. So there's other people pumping them out in much larger quantities, or just the sum of them all is huge. So it's going to have to be an automated system. I don't know how that's going to work out. I'll tell you how Android works out. Android mandates that you have to update your device every X number of months. I don't know what the number of months is. You notice you'll take a Samsung update, a Pixel update once a month. That's their latest kernel version with all the fixes at that point in time, and do that. If I can see devices updating within 2 to 4 months, I would love it. 6 months. Give me 6 months updates. If you're only 6 months out of date, I'd be very, very happy. The number of open bugs you have would be so small. The problem is today they don't even do that, right? There's 6-year-old
Right.
kernels in there with things that are just so wide open. It's just not even funny. So anything's going to be better than that. I don't know how it's going to work. It's going to have to be some rolling update, but just get on a cadence and say you're doing the best you can, and here's what they are. And again, identifier. We're giving you in a machine readable form all the information that you can use to then identify whether this is even applicable to you or not. So you can filter them away pretty easily. It should be simple to do that. Worst case, you're looking at 10 a week. I can cruise through 100 lines of bugs pretty easy once a week. You sit down, you have your engineer look at them. Do I need these? Yes, no. Okay, great. Take them and away I go, or things like that. It's just going to be a continuing engineering process. And I don't know how it's going to be written down into legalese. I'm part of that process. I'm just one of the 60 people that's part of that process, but I want to be involved. So hopefully to put some sanity into creating something that will be able to be followed. Right? Because it's not just open source, it's closed source. Again, Windows and OS X have the same rate of change of bugs. So it's not like open source is unique here. So there's Windows in a lot of things right now.
Well, closed source is based on open source. So
very much so. Yeah, curl is in everything, right? 106, 108 different operating system curl runs on. Yeah, so they have 3 CVEs a month, right? You got to update your stuff.